What makes you think, yep, those are crappy parents? When they passively tell their kids no but don't actually do anything to stop it when the kid misbehaves. One of my neighbor's kids is like this, and I hate having her over because her mother just lets her wreak havoc. If your kid is dirty, and I don't just mean juice on their face or some grass stains on their clothes, I mean when the child has obviously not been bathed in days, weeks. Also, if a child has bad manners and the parents do nothing to correct them, you are raising rude and inconsiderate people. Being unwashed and in dirty clothes on a regular basis is a neglect alarm bell that anyone who works with kids should keep an eye out for. At the very least, someone should be checking on the parents to see if they're struggling to cope and need help. In an ideal world, I used to work in a discount variety store. This unwashed, often barefoot woman would often come in with her kids. I thought she was nice enough, until one day her daughter innocently asks if she can buy a lolly, and the mum went off, screamed at the 7-year-old kid about how they can't afford it, and I'm not lying. She called her child a C, screamed the word, in public. Her kids were always so well mannered, but they were usually dirty. I felt so bad for them. Call CPS. Seeing fizzy drinks in babies' or toddlers' bottles makes my teeth itch. They don't need the sugar or the caffeine, or simply that much non-milk fluid. When they don't realize that their kid, no matter how small, is a full person with their own feelings and instincts and journeys in life and just dismiss anything about their kids that they don't understand or want to be true. Sometimes this also goes on even when you're grown up. When I hear them talk to elementary age kids like adults. Oh, you have it tough? Well frick. I worked a crappy day and had to come home to you, my neighbors. Kids running around wild in public. My friends and I actually act as spotters for each other during cardio workouts now, in the sense of spot and stop the moron kid who thinks it'd be fun to try and run between your friend's legs in mid-workout while their parents watch and do nothing. The dumbass apple doesn't fall far from the dumbass tree. When the kid smells like cigs. I understand you smoke but have enough decency to make sure your kids' clothes don't reek. My dad used to smoke around us as a kid and I remember in elementary this girl would bully me about it and always obnoxiously point out I would smell in front of our classmates. It was so embarrassing, so yeah, don't smoke by your kids, cause first of all secondhand smoke is a B. When they sound like a child or preteen themselves telling their kids what to do. Example, oh my god, shut up huh. Oh my god. That inflection at the end of words is one of my biggest pet peeves. Infantilizing children. Kids are not stupid. They know what's up. Also parents who rule by fear. You can see it when the kids flinch too easy. Exactly. Just because kids may not be able to communicate clearly does not mean they don't understand what's going on. I was having lunch in McDonald's one time and heard a mother scold her very obese 4-year-old to finish his mayonnaise. All judgment aside, I was eating there too. But maybe don't force a kid to eat mayonnaise. If you don't finish your mayonnaise, you can't have any syrup for dessert. Went to a farm corn maze last week and got to witness a man yelling at his 5 or so year old child for crying. He made him sit in the corner of this barn and kept screaming just stop crying every 2 minutes. He eventually got up with him, dragged him by his arm and screamed and sweared in his face less than an inch away. I don't know what this kid did or why he was so mad, but frick dude, yelling in their face like that especially in public is just disgusting. Sounds like you've met my father. Bob has 2 daughters. Daughter 1, Angel, is a shy little angel. She sits still, says please and thank you, is generally tolerable even to people like myself who don't particularly like kids. Daughter 2 is hyper, not really bad, just not the kind of kid and or at the age where she could sit still for an hour. Dad initially provides his cell phone for YouTube time for the daughters so they would leave the adults alone at dinner. Then, daughter 2 really makes a fuss about the channel or whatever. So dad takes the phone from Angel and gives it to Hyper to calm her down. After this goes on for a bit, you just rewarded Hyper behavior and punished Angel for not being demanding. This is terrible. This continues into adulthood and assumes other forms. I rented the basement bedroom from a woman who would scream at her kids stop touching me when they would try to be affectionate with her. Good times. About 8 years ago I worked at a summer camp and had a 9-year-old girl in my group. She was tall for her age and skinny like a lot of 9-year-old girls. Really pretty girl. But she would stop herself from doing normal things like eating s'mores and say things alluding to the fact that at home her mother calls her fat. She's nowhere near it and restricts her diet. It broke my heart. She hadn't even hit puberty and was a charming girl and she was being bullied by her own mother. I spent my week coming up with an outline of things to report to CPS. Not that they could really take her away, but a paper trail is worth it if things ever got worse for the girl. I really hope that girl has turned out alright. She didn't deserve that. Yesterday in the grocery store I was standing in the checkout line behind a man with 2 kids, looked like a 5 and 7-year-old. The kids were being goofballs, but not being wild by any means. The dad wasn't giving them any instructions, except for over and over again leaning down in their faces and yelling, "Shut up," every time he did. His little girl looked up at him with these sad puppy dog eyes. Broke my heart. I was driving yesterday and this guy had a big car full of kids without seat belts. This was on a motorway, also not just some back road. Your child's school has a costume day with the theme dress as your favorite character from your favorite book. The other kids come as Winnie the Pooh and Harry Potter and Anne of Green Gables. Not your kid. Your kid comes as Mr. Grey from 50 Shades of Grey. You are a crappy parent. Might sound bad but I actually laughed at that. Child is sweet, smart and extremely hardworking but has ADHD. The child does her best in school but does not do well because she just does not learn the way they teach. She is constantly grounded while siblings who get similar grades but have no learning disability are not. This girl is reading constantly and is great in English and history. Basically rewrites her siblings' English papers. But because she struggles in maths and sciences she is seen as good as her siblings. This child is constantly put down and her dreams discouraged because she's not good enough in school to succeed. Yup, that's the story of childhood for a large percentage of us. Calling repeatedly while wasted to tell their daughter that she is a piece of crap, simply because they hate themselves and their own life so much. Asking for money, never communicating or inquiring other than to be absolutely hateful. My girlfriend has learned to deal with it in her own way, but it makes me murderously angry. It's pathetic. She works so hard at everything she does. She is genuinely kind, funny, smart, and bonus, beautiful. And they do nothing but try to alleviate their hatred of themselves by lashing out towards her. They have so much to be proud of, and they're missing out. Getting angry over petty things. Usually something the kid gets angry towards the parent for. The parent gets angry towards the kid for getting angry. They are supposed to be above that petty crap. TLDR. Kid gets angry at parent equals parent grays angry at kid. Years ago, we traveled to Universal Studios in Florida. We went on the Terminator ride, which is very loud. About 20 feet from us was a couple who brought their 6-month-old baby on the ride, who proceeded to scream bloody murder during the entire ride because of all the lights and loud noises. Who the F brings a baby on a ride like that? Crappy parents, for sure. I felt so sorry for that poor child who was probably frightened out of her mind and had no idea what was going on. I saw a little girl spill a small glass of water on Christmas Day in a hotel in Puerto Rico. Her dad went on to shout about how she's ruined Christmas. He then struck her. He raised his hand again before my dad told him if he hits that little girl again he'd spend the rest of Christmas in a hospital. Your dad sounds like a great parent to have. I watched a couple both smoking over their toddler. One of them proceeded to throw the burning stub on the ground as they walked off. Disrespecting your kid and the environment so nonchalantly definitely rustled my jimmies. Kids that don't respect service workers. I work in a pub with a play area. The amount of times I've had to discipline children who are climbing on top of the play equipment or children being violent. The kids that talk back to me challenging the instructions I give them crap me up the wall because you can just tell they are the kids that are spoiled to heck and they can do no wrong. One time I had 3 different complaints about this pack of 13-year-old boys in the play area, breaking the 10-year-old limit, because they were being violent. I went in and gave them a warning. then later received a fourth complaint from a different table. I went in and tried to kick all the violent children out, but the mother came in and gave me the whole "you dare raise your voice at my children and you can't tell me how to raise my children." I informed her of the complaints I had received and her response was, "They are only making their cousins cry, so it doesn't matter." I was floored by her logic. My best friend's dad is a control freak and doesn't let him go out or play video games or talk to friends except for something like once a month. My friend is 19. Definitely not the worst parent, but when I was picking my GCSE options in secondary school, I wanted to do the hair and beauty course. My mum told me this was a stupid idea and that I should pick something more academic and leave the physical options for the stupid kids who don't get anywhere in life. I ended up hating all my options and basically failed everything that wasn't a core subject. Yet 3 years later my sister was allowed to pick hair and beauty. She's dyslexic, but I wouldn't say she's stupid. It's been almost 6 years since that, and I'm still struggling with career options because of that day. If I want to get into hair and beauty now, I'd have to spend hundreds, if not thousands of pounds on various courses and training, which of course I don't have. TLDR, parents who don't let children choose their own career paths can definitely frick off. It's their life, not yours. If I followed your timeline correctly, you're still under 25. In which case there are many hair and beauty traineeships and apprenticeships available that are still funded for you. Apprenticeships are available beyond that, too. If that's still the career path you want to follow, you can. Living vicariously through their kids, getting too worked up about sports, beauty pageants, dance competitions, etc. Basically the parent failed at, insert random thing here, so they're going to make dang sure that Junior succeeds at it, even though most of the time Junior doesn't give two shoots about it. It's worse when the parent was actually super successful at their thing and Junior just isn't as talented. Not paying attention to your kids and telling them their feelings and emotions are irrelevant because they're children. If you wanted somebody to boss around, hire a maid. Frick off. Also frick off if you hire a maid and boss them around. If you pick your age addiction over your kids, you're a crappy parent. If you do drugs or drink while pregnant and knowing you're preggo, you don't love your kid. I've seen this happen with my little sister's friend, who may as well be my little sister too. I've known her so long, and it's heartbreaking. She doesn't say much about it, but you can tell it tears her up that her mom and dad chose their addiction over her like they just didn't love her enough. They don't deserve her. She's a goofy sweetheart, but they probably barely even know her. When they cave into their kids' temper tantrums at the store or wherever, just to get them to shut up. Also, when they have to apologize to their kids for not getting them exactly what they wanted. Parents who take children to see scary movies. I get it. You want to watch movies like normal people, but you should think about the rest of us who paid to watch this, and don't want to hear your kids cry during all the scary scenes. Frick you people. Yeah, you having kids is not a decision I should have to pay for with a crappy movie going experience. Today I took my son out to the science cube. A little 2-year-old fell over right in front of me. His mom said, "That's what happens to bad kids." I wanted to strangle her, but I just glared at her as she walked away. Maybe she's a wizard. Don't judge. When I hear fathers telling boys to stop crying like a girl, frick you. Men are allowed emotions too, you know. I don't think a lot of people realize how damaging that kind of attitude is for the mental health of men in general. My mom used to tell me to suck it up and be a man anytime I was crying. I was an 8-year-old girl. I saw mom the other day with 2 kids. I'm a double buggy. The youngest was no more than 7 months old and she wasn't strapped in. Baby fell out. Mum ran baby over with buggy : looked like she told the baby off too. It was in German but definitely didn't look like she was consoling the poor kid. It was in German but definitely didn't look like she was consoling the poor kid. To be fair, German sounds angry. I stopped working retail at clothing stores because I couldn't stand the way parents talk to, especially, young teenage girls. As someone who struggled with mental illness eating disorders for a long time, there were so many times I wanted to intervene when a parent said their kid looked horrible in something they were really excited to try on. I got my revenge this summer though. There was a teenage girl showing her mom these cute overall shorts and begging the mom to let her get them. They were one of the more expensive items in the store, and her mom just kept saying no. You look ridiculous. You look like a toddler. You look like a train conductor, etc. I approached the girl and said they looked good as heck, and if it makes her feel good she should get them and wear them always. I hate when parents don't realize how severely their negativity can impact their kids. When I see fat kids, I'm not talking about baby weight chubs either. Proper little round globes of children. Do people realize the huge number of issues this will give the kid throughout their entire life? You wanna get fat at 30 and don't care? Do what you want. Want to feed your 7-year-old till their arm is the size of my thigh? That is child abuse. When they tell their kids to leave the tray on the table instead of putting the stuff in the bin and say it's the cleaner's to clean, not mine, when and why, you can just tell those kids will grow up to be crappy through no fault of their own. I told my son to pick up his trash at a restaurant and he said, but there's people for that. Yeah, I corrected that crap real quick. Parents disciplining children simply for acting like children, not misbehaving, tantruming, that's a whole different story. Parents who freely lie to their kids when asked why, they'll either give a gross mistruth or a fairy tale instead of saying I don't know but when we get home let's try to find out. Parents who swear around their kids. I mean, if you stub your toe and say frick once in a while, that's one thing, but I'm talking about peppering a conversation with random fricks, shoots, ns, etc. Show some class. Do you talk that way in public? Hint, if the answer is yes, you are a crappy person. Parents who baby their children and only get them chicken nuggets, french fries, pizza, or grilled cheese from the kids menu at every restaurant they go to. I love those foods too, but come on, teach your kid how to eat real food too. I used to work at an after school and holiday program, so you end up seeing the effects of bad parenting quite a lot. One child in particular still sticks with me. There was a 5-year-old girl who had just joined the program and she was the cutest thing you could ever see. Just an innocent little thing that had the most adorable laugh. Although, when she smiled, laughed or anything like that, which was a lot, you could see she had a mouth full of metal. Literally, almost all her teeth had fillings. She resembled something like a Terminator. Even though the parents seemed nice enough, you could tell that they fed her junk, gave her soda and never enforced any form of oral hygiene. It was really quite shocking seeing their neglect in that area. At the rate I'm going, I'd be lucky to reach the state her teeth were in my lifetime. And she's only 5. I feel like she's going to have no teeth by the time she's a teen. Always choosing what's easy, rather than what's right. Giving into tantrums to avoid hearing the fit. Just rolling over for anything, etc. Was at Target in Northern California. Witness to women telling her extremely thin daughters to share a meal because they should really only be consuming 500 calories a day. This was a rich woman. Suit, designer shoes, expensive bag. This wasn't about money. She was ruining her kids' bodies. Punishment for good deeds. If you want a child to do something, you reward when they do and punish when they don't. Often these are both in verbal form so as to apply immediately. However, some parents will punish even when the kid does good. This has the effects of the kid A lot less likely to do the thing, and B, being rebellious and distant when he is older. Some don't even realize they do it too. For example, your son leaves his shoes out. You yell at him to pick it up. He does so immediately. You should then reward him by telling him thank you. Instead, some parents will immediately snap with something like "and don't make me ever ask again." This punishes the child unnecessarily and causes the above problems. When the parents are dressed nicely, have nice things, but the kids are wearing ratty clothing that's too small. To take it further, when the parents are appropriately dressed for cold weather and the child doesn't have a coat or jacket. Whenever I see a mom wearing tops with wear holes but all of her kids have fairly new shoes, I always think that's what it means to have a child. Putting their needs and wants before your own. It shows in the simplest of things, like clothing. Implying that giving birth to the kid was doing them a huge favor. I'm all for respecting the sacrifices parents make for their children, but complaining about how much better things were before the kid came along to the kid's face is despicable. Not crappy per se, My girlfriend's parents constantly keep a tab on her, always being there for her, discussing each and every problem, giving their own solutions, etc. It is good in one sense, but what it indirectly does is give her a comfort zone, which hinders her confidence. Many times she doesn't feel confident in doing stuff when she can totally handle a situation. To give an example, she recently moved to London for masters. She booked a flight with a layover in our own country so that her phone will be working just in case she needed some help. She had her mother fly with her till that layover city so that she can be with someone as long as she can. She's 26 and have been living independently for 3 years now. I keep convincing her to talk less with her parents and try not to discuss problems with them. If you keep discussing problems with your parents, they will think you are not capable of handling them. Not sure how to get her out of this. I wanted her to gain confidence in herself rather than relying on her parents and underappreciate her skills. She has helicopter parents. They are well-meaning, but can't let go and recognize that she is an adult. I went to boarding school and there was such an issue with helicopter parents that they had to send a letter out every year, basically telling them to stop helicoptering and just let their kids resolve their own problems, as their interference is making it more difficult to deal with them. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.